Welcome to Eternal Dread, where fear never sleeps. Tell us where you're watching from, and what time it is, because terror has no limits. If you're brave enough, share and comment, but beware, something might be watching you too. Now, turn off the lights, and let the dread begin. I'm being hunted, and I need someone's help. If I don't get out of this fucking town by midnight, he's coming for me. And this bastard is going to fucking kill me. I don't know what he is becoming. I'm so out of my depth right now. Look, before I start, I want to let you know my ability has nothing to do with the person hunting me down. I just want to clarify. Yes, this phenomenon is part of what is happening to me. But it's not why I'm scared for my life. All you need to know is that it developed around puberty. Since I was about 12 years old, I have been able to jump into people's bodies. It's not permanent, and there are limitations, so it's not an ability at all. It's more of a nuisance. This phenomenon happens during prolonged skin-to-skin contact. I can hug someone without anything happening, but if the hug lasts a certain amount of time, or a handshake, for example, a kiss, or any kind of intimacy, that's the trigger. When it first happened, I was shaking my middle school principal's hand. If I could describe it, it feels like drowning, like being stuck, suffocating, before coming up for air. And this time, I was staring at myself. I remember my vision was blurry and feathered, and for some reason, I think I was slightly tipped to the side. I thought it was an out-of-body experience, but then it happened again. The next time was with my mom, when she was hugging me. This time, it lasted longer, and I could actually feel myself in my mother's body. I could wiggle her fingers and look down at her hands. I think I can speak for any kid with this kind of Freaky Friday crap happening to them. I took advantage of it, I tested my limitations. Exactly 4 minutes and 3 seconds was my durability in someone's body before I was violently yanked back to my own. Think of it like elastic. If I pulled too far, I would bounce back. Children were easier to jump into. Parents were harder to establish myself inside, but my own age was easy. I tried my friends and started to build my durability. By age 15, I could last 15 minutes and 13 seconds inside an adult body. 20 minutes and 8 seconds inside a child. Babies were a no-go. I tried to jump into my neighbor's newborn daughter and was immediately flung back. In my teens, I built up my endurance. I was 18, starting college, when I ran into another limitation. I don't know if it's always been like this, or if this thing changes and mutates like a virus. During my first week at college, I tried to jump into my roommate to check out her schedule. So I hugged her. Just a simple hug which triggered the jump. Confusing, yes, and the symptoms post-jumping are a pain in the ass. In her body, I went through her backpack, and I was careful to count under my breath. If I'm in a body for too long, it will start to bleed from the nose. I think it's something to do with pressure on the brain, but I'm not sure. I haven't explained what happens to my own body during a jump, and truthfully, I don't actually really know. I don't know if consciousness is swapped between bodies, or gets pushed back inside the brain. What I do know is my own body goes into a sort of stasis. Okay, still with me? Good. Let's talk about Rowan. Rowan was always kind of fucking weird. But he wasn't always like this. Ever since he moved out of his frat house, it's like he's become a different person. I've known of him since freshman year. He was that pretentious know-it-all in my philosophy classes, always acting like he had the universe figured out. Trench coat, hands shoved in his pockets, a permanent smirk on his lips. He looked like a 20th century detective with a stick up his ass. The most insufferable guy on campus. He debated everyone, never admitting when he was wrong, insisting his opinion was concrete, while everyone else was a fucking moron for not watching old black and white noir movies. Even when Rowan was wrong, when someone proved he was wrong, dangling the evidence in his face, citing real sources, he'd still double down, leaning back in his chair, heeled shoes resting on his desk. I literally have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, dude, he'd say when someone brought up a valid point. With a curl on his lip and a triumphant glint in his eye, he'd remind them that he was top of his class in everything at school, and his ADHD just made him smarter, better wired, a true intellectual. A nihilist riddled with his own existential dread. Because nothing comes after death, he argued. Over the years, he just got worse. Even as a 22-year-old, he still acted like his obnoxious teenage self. There is nothing, and there will never be anything, Rowan said loudly. Religion is a playground created by old people who were fucking bored. I'm gonna die. You're going to die. We're all going to die. He raised his voice, intentionally cutting off the girl trying to argue for life after death. We are all going to be consumed by nothing, end in nothing, and never think again. We won't even be conscious enough to know we're not thinking. Which is fucking crazy, right? His lips spread into a grin. We live up to 100 years, and how does it end, huh? It ends in fucking nothing. Rowan turned his gaze towards us, eyes narrowed, challenging us to correct him. Wealthy or poor, we all end up 6 feet under the ground. We rot, and our memories rot with us until even the slightest speck of our existence. Our names rarely whispered, our photos ingrained in reality fade too. The human race has come so far in evolution, so far in bettering ourselves, yet not even we can stop the creeping inevitability of our own demise. He laughed, but his voice was shaking, his teeth gritted together, breath coming out in sharp pants, like he was both reveling in and terrified of his conclusion. We just end. And who says there's even an ending or a beginning? How can we be sure we're even real? This guy just went on and on. Because what's the point? Life, then death, then darkness. Forever. That's what we're subjected to from birth, the inevitable reality that one day we will cease to exist. Something twitched in his expression at that word. Forever. It was almost like he was giving in, his muscles relaxing as he exhaled a shaky breath. Oblivion, he continued, projecting his voice. Oblivion never stops. It never falters. It cannot be fought or reasoned with. It is a disease that keeps going, spreading, expanding, eating away across the universe until there is nothing, and everyone in this room will become nothing. Again his lip curled, fists tightening. He was scared. Rowan was scared of his own hypothesis, that dying meant ceasing to exist. And one day, he too would fall prey to that oblivion. Rowan. Professor F enjoyed the debate initially, but after almost 2 hours of Rowan's obnoxious ranting, even he was starting to sink into his chair, twirling a pen between his fingers. Maybe chill out a little, huh? I'm speaking, Professor, Rowan spoke calmly, and to my surprise, the professor nodded, gesturing for the boy to continue. Go ahead. You're wrong. Clary, a petite brunette, spoke up. Rowan's head snapped around, lips curling into a smirk, or maybe he was hopeful. Oh! Instead of resuming his rant from his chair, Rowan jumped to his feet, and in 3 strides, he was looming over his opponent's desk. Clary, who just wanted to take part in the discussion. I could tell by her face, wide frantic eyes and wobbling lips, she was regretting her decision to raise her hand to debate him. Anyone who did ended up in tears or leaving class. Clarissa politely argued that there was a lot of scientific evidence of life after death. Oh yeah? Like what? He demanded in a scoff. Clarissa, raising her voice over his, spoke timidly, her eyes glued to her workbooks. Well, there's I watched him, like a predator, lean over the girl's desk. There's what? Clary ducked her head, refusing to look him in the eye. Clarissa, you're not looking at me, Rowan murmured in a sing-song, his tone a carefully constructed facade, smooth, almost gentle, designed to unravel the knot in her gut. The use of her full name was just another manipulation tactic. He leaned closer, hands curled into fists, resting on her desk. Rowan's presence alone made it difficult to talk back to him. He towered over her at an impressive 6-foot-something, dark brown curls pushed back by a pair of Ray-Bans that never left the crown of his head, a single lone curl hanging in challenging eyes. Rowan knew he was attractive. He knew his looks alone could swing everyone's opinions his way. When Clary slowly lifted her head, meeting his gaze, his frown softened into a smile. Triumph. Are you religious, Clarissa? He asked in a friendly tone, dragging a chair in front of her desk and plunking himself down on it, resting his chin on his fist. I could sense a collective breath being held across the room. I am, she said. I believe in reincarnation. Rebirth. Rowan nodded. His smile was patronizing. Okay, so let's say I pull out a gun right now and shoot you in the face. Rowan, our professor warned. He groaned, throwing his hands up with an eye roll. Okay, Phythian. Let's say a hypothetic ally dropped dead right now from a peanut allergy. Rowan was enjoying the girl's discomfort, the way she tried to lean back. His grin was spiteful, brow raised, challenging her to throw a rebuttal. What will happen to me after I die, Clarissa? Clary straightened up in her seat, her cheeks turning pink. You would be reincarnated, she said. No, before that, Rowan snapped, his lips curling. Yes, I get reincarnated, but is that straight away? How do you know it's not years, centuries, light years before I am reincarnated? And what happens in the time between? He leaned closer, so close that the girl was visibly shaking. His voice dropped into an almost seductive murmur, his wild eyes begging for her answer. Tell me oblivion doesn't exist between me dying and my rebirth. Oh, please. Another voice joined in from the back of the class. Her voice was like wind chimes, immediately attracting eyes, including Rowan's. The girl had an eccentric sense of style, a multicolored knitted jacket over a pair of overalls, blonde curls piled into a messy top bun. She grinned at Rowan, her pen lodged between her teeth. Sweetie, it's clear you're scared of death, and you're just looking for someone to tell you otherwise. You're full of BS. You're not some genius intellectual. You're desperate for answers. Rowan's lips pricked. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but I don't care. Imogen, she said, introducing herself. I've been sitting here for half a semester. Rowan's eyes narrowed. So, you're a stalker. I'm just a good listener. Rowan sat back on his chair. Go ahead. I'm sure the whole class is curious. He gestured to himself. I mean, I'm curious to know why you think I'm full of bullshit. You're scared of death, Imogen repeated. That's why you just spent over an hour ranting about the impossibility of life after death. You're trying to convince yourself against your own belief. Because deep down, you're terrified of what you believe in. She pulled the pen from her mouth with a pop. Oblivion. Rowan's lips pricked into a small smile. Somehow, his expression relaxed. Was it that obvious? The girl shrugged, now in full control of the debate. You were practically foaming at the mouth, so yes, it was obvious. Her smile was friendly. If I might ask, why are you so obsessed with death? I don't want to die, he deadpanned. Okay, but why? She leaned forward, her lips curling into a challenging smile. Just like you said, we all die. Dying is natural. It's part of life. So why are you so scared? It was as if she were tearing down the impenetrable walls he'd built around himself. For once, Rowan was speechless. He tapped his foot against the floor, his expression softening. He wasn't used to being challenged, and that was evident in his body language. The sweat glistening on his brow, his fingers clenching and unclenching into a fist. Because oblivion is endless, he said, tripping over his words. And I don't want to be stuck inside it. I don't want to lose my self-awareness, my ability to think and realize. But that's just peace, Imogen said, inclining her head. You're just describing dying. Why do you want to be aware when you're dead? Because I do, he snapped. Okay, but why? She challenged him, clearly enjoying the attention. Why do you keep asking why? Rowan demanded. Imogen. Professor F spoke up. That's enough. I think we're done here today. You keep saying you're scared of dying, scared of losing your self-awareness. Imogen continued, raising her voice. So what? Do you want to be constantly aware of being inside an endless void of nothing? Do you really want to be awake? That's not what I said, Rowan gritted out. She nodded. Sounds like you did. Imogen shot him a grin. In the words of the great Hanson, in Bop, you're gone. You can't stop it. So why be scared? Rowan's lips twitched into the smallest of smiles. I never said I wanted to stop it. Imogen cocked her head. Do you believe in the supernatural? Her words slid into me like ice-cold needles. Rowan scoffed. What, like fucking vampires and shit? Obviously not. But you do want to believe in self-awareness after death, she said, which arguably could be seen as supernatural. Rowan let out an incredulous laugh. You're twisting my words. That's not what I said. So prove it. What? Prove to me you're right. About what? I said that's enough, Professor F said sharply. If you want to debate in your own time, that's your choice. Sit down, both of you. I hadn't even realized Imogen had stood up, her arms crossed, wearing a smug smile. To everyone's surprise, though, Rowan was smiling too. That was the start of a beautiful, and increasingly curious, friendship. Let me explain. Initially, the two were just friends. They hung out in class. Imogen moved seats to sit next to him, and I saw them on campus getting coffee, or just chilling out. Rowan was always talking, going on and on and on, and Imogen was either sunbathing next to him, while he sat with his knees to his chest, or her head of curls buried in her arms. Sometimes, she would rest her head on his shoulder. I expected him to shove her away, but he didn't. The two looked comfortable together. Imogen had a significant effect on him, turning him from an egotistical asshole to a more tolerable, quieter version of himself. Rowan was a very obvious pick-me boy. He joined a frat house, despite their cruel hazing rituals. Rowan struck me as someone who was terrified of being alone, so he was insistent on finding others. I admit, I was kind of obsessed with this guy. I watched his hazing ritual from afar, comfortably hidden under the turnstiles. 12 guys stood in the rain in their boxers, balancing on one leg, led by their frat leader, a guy towering over them. They were mocked and laughed at, told to roll around in the dirt and confess their darkest secrets. This was like literal torture. 11 of them gave up, but Rowan stayed, trembling, holding himself up for hours as the day went on. At first, he had an audience, and he seemed to revel in it. But one by one, they drifted away, ducking out of the downpour. When the last student was gone, it was just him, standing there, shivering under a sky that grew ever darker. When the rain came down harder, I started to see the cracks form in his expression. He swayed to the left, then the right, forcing himself to stay upright. I gave up and ran to him, ready to offer my jacket. But he just leered at me, wet strands of hair plastered to his face. "Do you have any water?" he asked through clenched teeth. When I shook my head, he snorted and looked away. "Well, get the fuck away from me. I'm not a zoo attraction." So I did, as I ran for shelter, though Rowan was already tearing into someone else. I glanced back, curious. This time, it was a guy trying to drape a bright yellow sweatshirt over Rowan's shoulders. Rowan shoved it off with a scowl. "I don't want your corny fucking sweater, dude. But you're cold." The guy's voice was smooth like chocolate. I recognized it. I didn't know his name, but I knew of him. There was a rumor that his parents were in the mafia. I only knew his voice from him standing up in the middle of the class and denouncing the rumors, never once losing his cool. He readjusted the sweater when Rowan shrugged it off with a grumble. "You're going to catch something." And Rowan, very quickly losing his concentration, started stumbling on one leg. "Hey, you're going to make me fall." The guy stepped forward and stabled Rowan's shoulders. "Better?" Rowan folded his arms. "Maybe." Through the downpour, I caught only flashes of the guy, dark blonde curls nestled under his hood. When he stepped back, sweater still in hand, Rowan groaned. "Okay, fine. Leave the sweater if you insist." He paused. "Thanks." "Rowan." Behind me, a familiar blur of blonde curls peeked out from under an umbrella, balancing 2 styrofoam cups. Imogen. Like a disappointed parent, she marched over to him. "What did I say?" Still stubbornly balancing on one leg, Rowan scowled. "Come off it, Imogen. You're not my mom." "Fine. I'll just take these coffees and drink them myself." When she pivoted on her heel to leave, Rowan sighed. "Thanks for the coffee." Imogen turned, her scowl morphing into a grin. She handed him the coffee, and he took it gratefully, hopping to keep balance. "You're an idiot." "I'm too cold to argue." "Agreed." The blonde guy joined in with a chuckle. He tugged his hood over his eyes, shoved his hands into his pockets, and nodded to Imogen. "I'll see you back at the house." Imogen nodded. "Yep. I'll buy groceries tonight." "Oh, I cleaned the kitchen, so don't get your grubby shoes on my pristine floor." The guy stepped back, offering them a 2-fingered salute. "Sure. I'll start cooking dinner when I get back." Rowan stumbled, hopping on one leg. "Wait, you two know each other?" "Well, yeah." Imogen shoved him with a grin. "Kaz is my roommate." "Idiot. Charlie." The guy corrected, shooting Rowan a smile. "But everyone calls me Kaz." "Oh, it was Stoner Charlie. I did know him. I asked him out as a joke, and he started like uncontrollably laughing. That was where I left the 3 of them, already soaked through to the bone. But in the days that followed, it became clear that Rowan and Charlie were getting closer. I saw them walking to class together, Imogen squeezed between them, and then later, at a party. You're probably calling me a stalker, but I need you to understand. What happened between these 3 strangers was insane. And the more I discovered, the more intrigued I became. I was firmly convinced that Charlie was adopting outsiders and converting them into his roommates. Charlie owned one of the most expensive houses in this city. The Bolivia Residence, the last remaining elder house in town. Also an antique gold mine. As someone who's poor and definitely uses my ability to scam people, this detail stood out. I overheard a group of girls talking about Imogen. The rumor was that she had slept with half of the freshman class, and swiftly became an outsider before moving in with Charlie. So this guy had taken Imogen under his wing. Now Rowan, I shouldn't have cared, but beyond the fortune sitting in that house, those 3 students became impossible to ignore. Whoever Charlie was, his influence was slowly bleeding into Rowan and Imogen. It's like they went from normal college kids to something else entirely. It started innocently enough. Rowan, now fully tamed and more of a pretentious know-it-all than ever, began drawing stares the moment he entered a room. I couldn't explain why. It was like he carried an aura, an unearthly glow that demanded attention. Charlie and Imogen kept their heads down, buried under layers of clothing and hoods, but Rowan wanted to be noticed, despite his permanent scowl. Something about him had changed, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Everything, his posture, the way he held himself, his expression, even his voice, was different. His tone had softened into a smooth murmur, dripping with contempt and amusement, a far cry from defensive hissing. He ditched the 1920s style threads for band shirts and jeans, finally wearing his Ray-Bans instead of using them to slick back his hair. Once a well-known frat boy, Rowan started ignoring his old friends, sticking to Charlie's side. But what really stuck out about the Bolivia House residents was that they were pale. Not just pale. Under bright lights, the three were practically translucent. Charlie's face was thinner, gaunt, even, while Imogen's cheeks had lost their glow, her eyes sunken and drained of color. They were beautiful but almost grotesque, like freshly embalmed corpses. If I could describe them in a way that you would understand, imagine a fading photograph. Here's where it starts getting weird. There are many diseases that could have made them look like plague victims. I also considered the possibility of mold poisoning, or maybe carbon monoxide, since they all lived together. But then their behavior grew slightly disturbing. They looked noticeably less dead, walking into a party one Friday night. Color returned to their cheeks, their eyes were no longer sunken. They looked fantastic. I watched them from my seat on someone's Craigslist couch, intrigued by their increasingly erratic behavior. Rowan went straight into the kitchen, pulling all the blinds shut. Very normal behavior. I thought that was off, but it didn't bother me at that moment. Imogen became insanely talkative, jumping into a random guy's lap. But it was Charlie I was worried about. I was hunting down food to combat the nausea twisting in my gut when I walked straight into him raiding the refrigerator. I could already see his blonde curls, and for once, Rowan wasn't clinging to his side. At first, I thought he was scarfing down cold pizza slices, until I caught sight of his twitching hands curled around a pack of raw bacon. Strands of fat slithered between his teeth. I didn't question him. I couldn't question him. Every time I tried, he just grunted. This was a very different Charlie from what I knew. He was an intelligent, smooth talker, always in control, always high. This guy's eyes were half-lidded, vacant. Charlie? I managed to get out in a whisper. This would have been the perfect time to take him over. I could last 20 minutes in an adult body, and I was gunning for his. Not just because of his house, but because of his influence on the other two. Whoever or whatever Charlie was, he was controlling his roommates. And I was desperate to know how. Charlie! I hissed again, this time grabbing his shoulders. He surprised me with an uncharacteristic yelp, his body jerking, curling into itself, claw-like fingers digging into the plastic. Charlie's head snapped around, wild, unfocused eyes finding mine. It was almost territorial, like he was afraid I was going to take it from him. It's okay, never mind. I managed to get out, well aware of Charlie's tracking glare, watching my every movement. I took a single step back, and his whole body jolted, his nose flaring, lips curling into a snarl. When I made it clear I wasn't a threat, he slowly inclined his head, before turning back to his snack. I edged away from him, and walked straight into Rowan, who was mid-conversation with another guy. The two were tucked into the hallway, away from the crowd. The guy had long blonde hair tied into a ponytail, a plaid shirt over jeans. Australian, by the sound of his accent. Rowan, just please. The Australian grabbed him, forcing him to look at him. Tell me what's going on, okay? You've been flaking out. You're not answering my texts. Whatever it is, you can tell me. Rowan, leaning against the wall with his arms folded, rolled his eyes. He was in yesterday's clothes, I noticed. The exact same shirt and jeans. He was trying to act nonchalant, but I saw his gaze flick back and forth between each window, like he was scared of something behind it. Rowan sighed. I was sacrificed to a werewolf-worshipping cult, and now I crave the taste of human flesh. Sam scoffed. That's not funny. Rowan didn't laugh, raising a brow. I'm sorry, did it say it was? Rowan. I'm fine, Sam. Yeah, but the way you were acting the other night. Rowan shoved the guy away with a snort. All right, well, I'm gonna get another drink. Have fun playing detective, Sammy. I followed him into the kitchen, where he made out with a random guy, who seemed surprised but into it, only to shove the guy away when the stranger tried to get closer. He grabbed a dancing Imogen's arm, pulling her to his side. I couldn't register what they were saying, so I moved closer, blending in with the crowd of drunk students. It's almost time, Rowan said in a sing-song, trying not to panic but definitely panicking tone. Where's Kaz? Imogen, maintaining a wide smile, tugged him closer, so close that he stumbled, almost losing his footing. I'm pretty sure we drew straws, and you picked the short one. Rowan dumped his drink down the sink. I noticed he never looked up. His gaze stayed glued to the ground, or hidden behind his glasses. I mean, I was babysitting, but then he ran off. He's like a fucking cockroach. I think I've cornered him, and then he scuttles from my grasp. Well, we need to find him, Imogen hissed, diving into the crowd. You go that way, and I'll check the smoking spot. But what if he's outside? Rowan hissed back. Imogen was gone, leaving him alone. I watched Rowan, clearly panicking, pushing through the crowd of party-goers, before he found Charlie standing on the doorstep. Charlie was stupid still, almost paralyzed, a can of beer still in his hand. When it slipped from his grasp and hit the ground, something slimy slithered up my throat. Rowan, after stopping dead in his tracks, joined him, his head tipping back, eyes on the sky. On a perfect full moon. Oh fuck! Imogen shoved past me, shading her eyes. She marched toward them, trying to pull them back. But Rowan didn't move. Charlie stood perfectly still. I watched Imogen's expression twist with fear, with hopelessness, as she tried and failed to pull the boys back. She lifted her head in an attempt to grasp Rowan's shoulders and yank him back. Her resolve was already bleeding away the second her eyes fell on the illuminated sky. I swore at that moment. I watched moonlight fill, almost suffocate, her eyes. Imogen's arms dropped to her side, and she joined the other two, just staring at the sky. After that night, the Bolivia House kids started to build a reputation for being weird. I was convinced Charlie was at the center of it all. He was the one who was affected first, and the other two followed. After months of watching 3 students turn into something more, I came to the conclusion. The only way I was going to find answers was to jump into Rowan's body. He was my safest bet. I had a feeling Charlie wasn't human. If he wasn't, then surely he would detect me. Rowan, however, was a classmate, and easy to perfect the jump. I could take his body, go back to his house, take what I needed, and jump back. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks, though. I figured he was still sick from the gas poisoning on campus. It wasn't fatal, but it did cause some students to have vivid hallucinations. The sun was gone. Some students claimed, very clearly suffering from poisoning. Now, I knew these were just delusions, but my gut still twisted into knots. Notably, Rowan and Imogen were fairly normal again. They ditched their shades and no longer had that aura. I decided to jump into Rowan's body last night. Stupid idea. I know that now. But just keep reading. Towards the end of class, I slid into the seat in front of him. I tried not to notice the entire class keeping their distance from Rowan. And by that, I mean physically moving their desks away. He didn't seem to mind. In fact, Rowan was the quietest he had ever been. Are you free tonight? I asked conversationally. Rowan lifted his head, settling me with a smile. Sure. No smirk, no amused eyes, not even an eyebrow twitch. His smile was so genuine. I thought he was mocking me. Class ended, students making themselves scarce. I jumped up, only for him to gently pull me back down. How about now? Rowan's smile widened, his grip tightening on my wrist. I tried to pull away, but he didn't move, his head dropping onto his shoulder. How about we hang out now? Before I could open my mouth, he wrenched my hand back, until the tendons were snapping, his smile never faltering. The pain hit me in waves, sending my body into fight or flight. Go ahead. Rowan leaned forward, balancing his fist on his chin. There was something new in his eyes, a hollowness I couldn't understand, like staring into oblivion itself drowning him, a single ignition of light writhing in his pupils. I started to speak, Creak. He kept going, his gaze never leaving mine, the pressure of his hand pushing mine further and further and further, until I screamed, slamming my free hand over my mouth. I said go ahead, he said cheerfully, tightening his grip. Like he knew. The pain was scorching, but already fading as I tightened my grip on him. I've always seen jumping as grabbing onto a person's soul and clinging onto it, but with Rowan there was nothing to grab onto. I was aware of his mind, his soul, but it was so cold. I had words in my mouth, but Rowan's mouth wouldn't move. I managed to wrench his lips apart to speak, before I was being catapulted back, which meant only one thing. Someone had moved my body. Detaching myself from Rowan's soul was like pulling myself out of quicksand. I felt no panic, no pain, no desperation inside him. He was nothing, a void vessel that was somehow alive. I saw glimpses of memories, a skylight taken over by the moon, cruel rope wrapped around his wrists, and 2 bodies pressed to him. I felt exactly what he did, a steel knife slicing his throat open, and the light above enveloping him. I saw his trembling hands full of slithering strands of flesh. I heard his cries, his screams, his sobbing, the boy's fragmented soul crying for mercy. Kill me. Please kill me. Fucking kill me. Kill me. His thoughts bled away as fast as they had come. I felt the familiar prick of pain inside my own body. My snapped wrist. I awoke, lying on my back, staring at the dark sky through a thick canopy of trees. Footsteps. So the stalker is awake. Rowan. He towered over me, lost in the moon's shadow. I couldn't take my eyes off the chunk of bone adorning his curls. Like a crown. This was exactly what he had hoped for. Life after death. But did he really want this life? Rowan dropped something onto my head, and when I could move, I dragged my body to a sitting position, dragging my fingers through my hair. It was a crown, this time made of entangled vine and roses. I want to play a game with you, he murmured. I was so weak, my body betraying me, blood spluttering from my mouth. You run, he said, his voice teasing, as I forced myself to my feet, biting back a cry. And I'll catch you. Rowan paused, pulling out a pack of cigarettes, sticking one in his mouth, and lighting it up. He took a drag. His eyes were both beautiful and horrifying, twin stars of illuminated oblivion. I'll give you a head start. I did start to run, throwing myself into a sprint. He didn't run after me. Rowan didn't move a muscle. When I twisted around, he was still standing there, watching me. It's been maybe 6 hours. I'm still safe, but I don't know how long. I've been inside his body. I've seen and heard his soul crying out. But even now, I can sense him breathing down my neck. He's getting closer. In the dead of silence, I can already hear his slamming footsteps. He's already running, and he's going to fucking catch me. It began like any other day. I woke up late, the sunlight filtering weakly through my blinds. I had no particular plans, just the usual routine of scrolling through my phone, sipping some coffee, and maybe taking a walk on the beach later. It wasn't until I noticed the time that I realized it was nearing lunchtime. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since breakfast. A sudden craving hit me for something simple, something nostalgic, the Krusty Krab. I hadn't been there in a while, but I remembered the way the place smelled, the sound of the grill sizzling, the warm, fried patties served by the cheerful employees. It was a staple of my childhood, a comforting spot by the beach where everything always felt okay. I'd heard rumors that the restaurant had undergone some renovations recently, but I didn't pay much attention to the gossip. It was just the Krusty Krab, a family-friendly, cartoonish eatery. As I walked toward the restaurant, the street seemed unusually quiet. The air felt heavy, almost thick, and there was a strange stillness to the world around me. I shrugged it off. Maybe it was just one of those days when everyone else was inside, avoiding the scorching midday sun. But the moment I reached the door of the Krusty Krab, a chill ran down my spine. The usual flickering neon sign was absent. The windows, usually clear and inviting, were clouded over. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door, unsure if I should go in. But my stomach reminded me it was time to eat, so I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air hit me first. It was thick, dense, and smelled wrong. It wasn't the fresh scent of grilled seafood or the greasy fryers I remembered. This was rancid, like burnt plastic mixed with something I couldn't place. It made my stomach turn, but I convinced myself it was just a bad batch of something cooking. The restaurant was empty, eerily so. The booths were deserted, the tables untouched. The usual cheerful music was absent, replaced by an unsettling silence that seemed to weigh on me. It was as if the whole place was holding its breath. Then I saw him. Behind the counter, standing motionless, was SpongeBob SquarePants. But not the cheerful, animated sponge I remembered from the cartoons. His once bright yellow color was faded, almost gray, and his square body was crooked, like he had been left in the sun too long. His eyes were wide, unblinking, with an unsettling gleam, like they were staring through me. The usual goofy grin that defined him was replaced by something darker, a grimace stretched unnaturally wide. "Welcome to the Krusty Krab," he said, his voice too deep, too slow, like it was being dragged out from somewhere dark. "How may I serve you today?" I blinked, unsure how to respond. Something in my gut told me I should leave, but the hunger gnawing at me wouldn't let me. I'll have the Krusty Krab Deluxe," I managed to say, trying to sound normal. SpongeBob didn't answer right away. He just turned slowly toward the grill, his movements jerky, unnatural. He seemed to be staring at the empty grill, as if waiting for something. Or someone. My heart skipped a beat, and I looked around, hoping to see someone else. Someone who could reassure me this was all normal. But there was only silence, the sound of my own breathing filling the void. I noticed a shadow moving near the door leading into the back of the kitchen. Squidward. But he wasn't the grumpy cashier I remembered. He looked wrong. His skin had turned a sickly purple, dark veins bulging out of his face and tentacles. His once narrow eyes were wide, bloodshot, and sunken in his skull. His mouth was stretched into a twisted grin, showing jagged teeth that shouldn't belong to a cartoon character. "Another customer?" Squidward rasped, his voice coming out hoarse and unnatural. "Looks like SpongeBob's got this one. Lucky you." He chuckled, but it wasn't a normal laugh. It was deep, guttural, as if the sound of it was being dragged from the bottom of a well. I didn't know what to do. I felt frozen to the spot, unable to move or speak. The smell of burnt food thickened in the air, and the silence between us grew heavier. And then I heard it, the faintest sound, a growl, low and rumbling, coming from the back of the restaurant. It was distant at first, but as the seconds ticked by, it grew louder. My blood ran cold. SpongeBob turned to me, his grin widening even further, revealing rows of sharp, yellow teeth. "It's almost ready," he said, his voice slow, deliberate, like he was savoring each word. "The special, just for you." My skin crawled. Something was terribly wrong here. I could feel it in my bones. This was not the Krusty Krab I remembered. This wasn't even real anymore. Before I could move, I felt the cold, bony hand of Squidward brush against my shoulder. "You're going to love it," he whispered in my ear, his breath foul and rancid. "We don't get many visitors these days." I jerked away from him, but it was too late. The restaurant door slammed shut behind me, and the windows went dark, the world outside disappearing into blackness. I was trapped. "Mr. Krabs?" I gasped, desperate for anyone who might be normal here. But when Mr. Krabs appeared from the back, my blood ran cold. His body was bloated, grotesque, with a cracked, discolored red shell that looked like it had been left to rot in the sun. His eyes were wide and crazed, filled with hunger, with an insatiable thirst for something I couldn't understand. His claws were massive, dripping with thick, black goo that splattered onto the floor. "Ah, there you are, lad," he growled, his voice deep and full of malice. "We've been waiting for you." I tried to run, but SpongeBob's hand shot out, grabbing me with terrifying speed. His fingers were ice cold, and they dug into my flesh, pulling me closer. "You can't leave," he murmured, his voice sickeningly sweet. "You're part of the menu now." I struggled against him, my body shaking with panic, but I couldn't escape. Squidward's tentacles wrapped around my legs, squeezing tightly, while Mr. Krabs advanced, his claws clicking together with an ominous rhythm. The growling from the back of the restaurant was deafening now, echoing through the walls, shaking the very foundation of the place. Suddenly, the walls seemed to pulse with life. I realized too late that this was no restaurant. It was a trap. It was alive. The Krusty Krab was a living, breathing thing, and it was hungry. "You'll be part of the stew," Mr. Krabs sneered as he grabbed my arm, his claws digging into my flesh. "We don't serve just anyone, you know." The growling grew louder, closer, and before I could fully comprehend what was happening, the kitchen doors burst open. From the darkness stepped a massive, monstrous figure. It was a twisted, rotting version of a sea creature, covered in slick, black scales, its teeth jagged and too numerous to count. "No!" I screamed, trying to pull away, but the grip of the others was too strong. The creature approached, its massive form towering over me, its eyes glowing with a malicious hunger. And then it spoke, its voice a deep, guttural rasp. "Dinner is served." I gasped, the air leaving my lungs, and just as I was about to be consumed by the thing, everything went dark. I awoke with a jolt, gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. The room was familiar, the soft light of morning filtering through the blinds, the distant hum of traffic outside, but my heart was racing, and I felt a tight knot in my stomach. It had been a nightmare, just a nightmare, a twisted, horrifying dream, nothing more. I sat up slowly, breathing deeply to calm myself. I glanced around my room, disoriented, still trying to shake the lingering terror of the dream. The Krusty Krab, SpongeBob, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, all of them turned into monstrous figures, their grotesque smiles seared into my mind. No, it was just a dream, just a nightmare. I swore to myself that I'd never watch that show again. No more SpongeBob, no more Krusty Krab. But as I lay back down, I heard it again, the growl I heard inside that nightmare. And this time it sounded closer. I pulled the blanket tightly around me, eyes wide with terror, as I realized the nightmare wasn't finished yet. It was still waiting. The Roads. Written by /The Endless Cycle. I arise from sleep, enveloped in the murky fog of a late night last night, and the painful responsibility of evacuating my bed to attend to my duties. Today is an important event. Not only am I turning 18, but I am also inheriting my father's car. You see, a strange thing has happened to my town. About 20 years ago, all the roads exiting our town are cut off from the real world, we are told. And now, if you go too far, you'll never come back. I walk downstairs, the peeling paint on my walls a familiar sight, along with the dark spots that seem to radiate from damp corners from our decaying home. Houses aren't in the best of shape here at the city. It's been a while since the last time there was anything new, and I mean anything fabricated in an industrial setting. Now we just rely on making things ourselves. I come down to see my father sitting at the breakfast counter, anticipating my arrival. "You're up early," he says to me. "Can't miss this one," I reply. "Well, we better get going right away. No time to spare. Eat your stew quickly, then we're right out the door." I sit down to the table to find a carrot, potato, and leek stew. And to my surprise, I find a lump of beef floating in the stew, then another, then another. I scoff the thing down in a few seconds, then look up. "Good haul?" I ask. "Surprisingly good. The roads have been generous recently." "It's about time too," replies Dad. We get up from our chairs and make it out the old worn wooden door to our house. The damp foggy air hits me as I step outside. Dark buildings lit by candlelight line the pathway down the estate, wooden boards, metal scrap, and makeshift concrete pillars holding each house together. I walk down the cobble path past the market square, where merchants are waving around different vegetables, and there is an audible chatter, shoppers chirping and laughing to each other, telling jokes and gossiping. Past the town hall, filled with the piercing looks of venerable seniors. Past the Carpenters' Guild, the smell of freshly cut pine escaping through a vent. Past the blacksmiths, a dark red and yellow flame emanating from the storefront windows, and past even more wooden houses with slate roofs. As we move along, I spot an old man at the side of the road, telling his story to the children that have all gathered around to listen. And then that's when we see it peering out through the trees. We sped up. I find Eve slowed down to listen to the old man, and his same old tale he likes to tell. I've heard bits of it before. The car began to rattle. We thought we were fecked, then suddenly, "Come on," yells Dad, and I quicken my pace. Finally, after making our way past Main Street, we arrive at the motor house. Inside, tools can be seen laid in the walls and car parts strewn about the place in every direction, waiting for further repairs and inspection. The sign above the entrance reads, "Iron Harvesters." We walk through the large open metal door and step inside. It reeks of oil and grease. Our city wasn't always like this. It once was clean and busy and lit by fantastic lights. But ever since what happened long ago that made it now so dangerous to drive the roads, all contact with the outside world has been cut. That is, if there even is an outside world anymore. It's not really much of a city, but we just call it so. Well, it is the one and only semblance of humanity we have left, and at this point it really feels like one. It's more of a small village town, urbanized and almost to the point of being a concrete field, growing wooden buds of living space. Nature provides a natural gradient to the city boundary, slowly making its creep towards the houses, gradually getting less and less green the further into the city it goes. Well, lad, I'm snapped out of my daydreaming to meet the people who are of the noble role of being the only people capable of keeping the village operational. "Hey," I reply back. "So this is it, your first trip and chance to get used to your new job," the tall man across from me says in a thick Galway accent. He has slicked back black and gray hair and a grease-stained shirt, which has gradually gotten blacker and blacker to become gray as opposed to its original white. He was stocky and well-built, and looked like he could wrestle a bear, but was a kind man at heart. Well, Dad always used to tell me that. There are about 5 other men in the room, all dressed quite differently, some in work jumpsuits, some with mechanic aprons, some with work trousers, but what they all have in common is the black tar-like substance that seems to stain everything in the motor house. This is a big occasion for all of us. Welcoming a new agent into our ranks is no small event by any means. And coming from your dad, we know your potential. You'll learn soon enough why we need you. Then you'll know why we're all going gray. The tall man lets out a chuckle, and so do a few of the other guys, including my dad. I listen again attentively. This job can be a lot for people. He begins. It can take years off your life, or cut it short entirely. But the work you do for the village and the help you will provide, it's immeasurable. As well, you can always quit at any time if it gets too much. God knows there are enough professions in the city to go around. You'll be going on a routine supply runoff of main road outside the city. This will be your first time leaving the city Oswell. Just remember to keep your wits about you. Hear a noise, report it immediately. See strange movements? You make your supply run partner know instantly. In this case, your dad. I want you to listen to him, okay? He knows a lot more than you do on these roads. You won't be going too far. The nearest light supply depot should be around 10 kilometers outside the city. Nowhere near a danger zone, but still be cautious. I nod in reply and thank him, and turn to my dad. He looks over to me. We leave early today. We should go while the sun's still up so it's easier. He tells me. He shows me to the car housing unit, a side compartment to the building with a fold-up garage door for easy departure. We enter the room, and there it is. It's the car. Not any car, but the car. They have been using this thing for over 20 years, constant strain, and work on the mechanical beast. He always used to tell me stories about times it saved him, or the things that yielded under its wheel, shrugging it off like if it was nothing. Its clean gray shine grabbed my attention, beautiful curves and intricate beautiful design. It's amazing that this one even works after so long, and work at Deo's perfectly. I read off the back of the enclosed pickup bay, Hilux, and an interesting oval symbol with what looks like two smaller ovals inside. Hop in, Dad tells me. I grab the door to the Hilux and hop in, so Deo's my dad Oswell. He shows me what a seatbelt is and how it works, and drives us out of the recently opened folding metal door. I look into the back to see what we have: a green medical kit, an axe, a crowbar, an under-over-style shotgun with 3 whole boxes of buckshot ammunition, what looks like a fire-lighting kit, a waterproof canvas sheet, and a pair of binoculars. For a lot of items, it didn't seem to take up much space. In fact, not much at all, being that they lay resting at the footwell of the passenger seats. Our goal is to get food for the village today, my dad says to me. Then he turns to me with a big smile on his face. It's finally time you went on the run with me. I know how much you wanted to go, and here we are. I say it's good for the wait to be over. He is right. I did a good job to conceal how excited I was for this moment this morning. I have long dreamed of joining my dad and carrying on his honor of being a supply runner. Listening to his tales of adventure just made me even more stalwart in my conviction of joining him. I can't wait to leave the city. I don't think I've been this excited in my life. Then he starts, so we'll make a turn off here. See that tree lean over there in the distance? That's where the roads begin. We are looking for any sort of building. There's always supplies in them. After that, a long quietness settles in, and the long car ride is in action. We leave the city, leaving all the houses behind, entering the roads and exceeding the threshold of what is the safe zone, coincidentally marked with trees growing in a line as to where it begins. We go past the trees to be met with a few open fields on either side, wide expanses of grass and strange abandoned houses in disrepair, almost completely turned to ruin. After a few kilometers, we enter a forest, one which is extremely dense and gets darker the further we enter. A heavy, thick, murky fog permeates through the trees like water through a sponge, the light diffusing softly through the trees, only to make it to the ground as a dim illumination. The dark greens of the trees are amplified in the dark, dank environment, making it look otherworldly and extremely peculiar. I stop paying mind to the trees, although still thoroughly enjoying the ride. The atmosphere here is like nothing Eve ever experienced. It evokes a certain strange emotion I can't quite put a finger on. It has started to rain, light droplets meekly tapping on the windscreen, creating a nice calming white noise. Then it turns into a downpour, heavier and heavier. Wild ferns grow out from the sides of the road, while moss and mushrooms cover the forest floor. We keep driving as I watch the trees whiz past at high speeds. Then I spot in the distance what looks to be some construction out of wood, hung off a wooden pool jutting out from a tree. It looks to be a little totem, with little designs etched into the front and back, and coated in patches with a dark red paint. Or was it paint? We drive past as it sways with the breeze of the car. That's not good. Dad says, "What's it mean?" I ask. It means we might have company. Not always, but there is a chance we're not alone. I think I forgot to tell you about the creatures here. You usually don't ever see the same creature again, but sometimes you can. A lot of them don't look to harm you. They just mind their own business. We don't really understand what they are and where they come from, but there's just something unnatural about them. They make your skin crawl, especially the more disfigured and out of proportion ones. You wouldn't want to see the teeth of some of the ones that have chased us home. They can chase you? Inside the car? Going this fast? I ask impatiently, a slight twinge of anxiety conjuring up detailed mind images of demon creatures running at a pace that would offend God. Yes, unfortunately. That's when the true horror starts, and a bonus, your only hope is luck to bring you home in one pace. But don't think about that now, you'll just scare yourself. Anyways, chances are we won't see a single one at all this trip. His reassurance reaffirms the silence, and we now drive in a quiet stillness once more. The water of the gravel road is splashed up against the sides of the road, as light pierces the fog in front of the car. After about 2 hours of driving down this forested road, we eventually come across a clearing. The dense, tightly packed trees of the forest open up to a huge, wide expanse of a mountain range. Flat volcanic black soils cover the nearby fields, and snow-capped mountains with sharp apexes completely cover the nearby surroundings. The forest ending in a hill to one side of the road, continuing the forest on an elevation. Beautiful waterfalls contrasting with the gray and black mountain sides. After a few more minutes, there we see it. An abandoned SuperValu sits solitarily on the side of the road. Its lights are on, every shelf stocked, and everything looking perfectly normal. Despite one small fact, there was absolutely no one there. The glowing red letters spelling SuperValu catching my attention for a brief moment before I looked to my dad. "This is it, jackpot," he says. "It should be easy enough. We just go in, take as much essential supplies and food as we possibly can, then we leave." Just like that. "Yeah, alright," I say. We exit the truck and slam the doors shut. Then make our approach towards the shop. It's dim inside, but well lit, an unsettling sight. The shelves look desolate and unused, but stocked full of fresh groceries through the grimy, dusty windows that separate the outside world with its dank interior. We walk up to the shop, and sliding doors open to reveal its inside. We walk down the gray path up to fruit and veg aisle. Everything strangely fresh and newly replaced. All the fruit underripe ready to ripen, and vegetables waiting to be cooked and eaten. We make our way over to the canned foods aisle, and that's when I notice something's off. After inspecting the cans, I find the words are strange. They are slightly off. Misspellings here and there, some looking like English lettering, but only barely comprehensible, like trying to read something in a dream. Even worse was the images on the cans. From uncanny faces to creatures with more legs than the natural order should allow. And then this one lone can on a separate shelf that was completely dark red with a face that had 2 red faded eyes the size of pinheads, and an awful disputing smile that revealed several rows of sharp pointed teeth. We decided not to touch that can. As we moved through the shop, my dad shoved cans into his bag he brought, knowing exactly which ones were good and which ones weren't, or potentially hazardous. "See this one, yellow label with green brand. It's usually peas but sometimes sweet corn. Always relatively safe to collect," he explained to me. "These black cans too with the purple text, they should be good Oswell. Usually a type of legume. Protein is very important." After he got what he needed from the canned goods section, we headed over to the meats section. He put some ham and sausages and all sorts of other meat in a giant cooler bag he had. Then once it was full he zipped it up. "Stay here, I'm just going to the car to get another bag," he tells me. I nod in understanding. After he left, I decide to have a bit of a look around. There's a staff-only room. I try the handle. It's locked, unfortunately. That's when I begin to hear strange noises coming from behind the door, like a droning, clicking noise, along with raspy breathing. I turn back around to see my dad with 2 new bags, and the full ones back in the car. I call out to him saying, "There seems to be some sort of creature behind this door. Is it worth worrying about?" "No, that's not a problem. That happens in a few of the stores. It never harms us because we never open the door," he replies. "Next is the plant products," he says. "All the vegetables and fruits should be good to eat, which makes our job easier. As you can see, it's strangely ripe. It always is." He begins to shove vegetable into a large sack. From potatoes to cabbages to turnip to mushrooms, there was a large variety of items to choose from, and all sharing a common theme: being extremely fresh. As one bag is beginning to fill, he suddenly stops and freezes. That's when I hear the faintest noise in the distance, that sounds between a groan and a whistle. He looks at me and whispers, "Do not make a sound, get back to the car." "Right. Now." I nod in compliance. We quietly make our way to the door of the supermarket, making sure to be as quiet as possible. We get to the window. "We will run to the car in a few seconds. Hold on. Now go." We sprint to the car, opening doors in a frenzy. Sack thrown in the passenger seat, doors slammed shut and seatbelts are fastened. That when I spotted it, upon the hill stood this humanoid creature, Stanley limply, elongated arms at its sides, jaw open to an unnaturally large extent. It looks just like a human, but its eyes SRE sunken into deep black pits, with pointed teeth that are the size of a finger, staring back open-mouthed at me. "Ack," I just barely managed to choke out, while pointed to this monstrosity. "Shit," Dad says, looking to where I'm pointing, starting the car with increased haste. The engine starts, and we reverse at full speed out of there, and back onto the main road to turn around. Then it begins to chase us. Its galloping is horrifyingly fast, outstretched ghoulish elongated arms, propelling itself forward to aid its legs. Long fingers making tracks in the dirt. We turn around and head back the way we came from, back into the forest. I look back to see it still chasing us. We eventually begin to lose it as we travel back home, every now and again glancing back just to see if we really did lose it, in beginning to calm down, and starting to the drive quite peaceful and relaxing. If you forget about the danger, and what's out there, it makes for a cozy ride. The forest is even darker as it was before, as headlights cut through the murky fog in front of us. After an hour more of driving, we exit the forest and back in the city, warm lights illuminating the horizon. My girlfriend left me. I went to work like any normal day, and when I got home she was gone, along with most of my stuff. I had to get a new TV and furniture, as well as kitchen appliances. I got almost everything off Craigslist for a nice price. Good thing the house and car are in my name, or she'd probably try to take that from me too. The thing that has been odd though is now that I am alone. For the first time in 6 years, I don't feel alone. I can feel her in bed with me still. See flashes of her moving around the bedroom, closet, or bathroom. Even though it's a new bed and sheets, I swear I can smell her too, something like her perfume and shampoo. This might make me sound weird, but at first all this was comforting in a way. I felt like I lost everything, like I was an alien in my own home. But these things I noticed were like a flash of my old life. Recently though, these things have become too real to be just me imagining things. It started in my dreams oddly. I kept having a recurring dream from different perspectives. I would be trapped in a dark room before a masked man would come in and stab me. The icy blade would throw me awake covered in chills. The other one was the same dream from an out-of-body perspective, where the same sequence would happen, but the dream wouldn't end after the knife. Instead, I followed the killer outside. He would put the body in a big metal barrel and set it on fire. Then I would wake up with a hot flash. But when I would wake up from this, I felt comforted by a firm, cold arm wrapped around my waist. I would spin around in bed, for the feeling to release, and see an empty bed. Of course it was empty. Maybe I was still half dreaming when I awoke. But it kept happening. 3 days ago, I swear I heard crying in my closet. I just got off work and was pretty tired as I had been struggling to sleep with everything happening. As such, I almost ignored it and continued making dinner. But the reality set in. Maybe someone was hurt, or maybe I'm just going crazy. Either way, I'm a pretty big guy and I needed to go check. I strode down my hall trying to look and sound confident with my body posture and movement. I definitely wasn't though. As I made my way in my closet and turned on the light, there was nobody. Obviously there was nobody. I live alone. I tried telling myself that over and over while fixating on a point in my closet. My pants parted on the bottom hanging rack in such a way it was like someone was sitting under them. I moved in closer and spread them to check behind. Nothing, except my carpet had some black marks on the floor, in the shape of 2 bare feet, definitely way smaller than mine. I couldn't have left them. I changed the lock on my door. My ex couldn't have left them, and I vacuumed a few days ago. They couldn't be very old. I went into a panic, investigating my whole house. My pot of water boiled over in this time, and made a huge mess in my kitchen. But I was alone, so I made dinner and went to bed. That night I had a new dream. It started at the same barrel, but the fire was gone. The bones were cool. I watched him remove the charred bones and bring them inside the basement again. The blood was gone from the floor as he laid the burned skeleton down. I woke up on the verge of tears from fear and feeling of sadness I couldn't place. I swear, on trying to go back to sleep I heard an "it's okay" in my ear, followed by a kiss on my forehead. The next night I had the same dream, awoke with the same feelings, except nothing comforted me. Instead I had 2 words ringing in my head. Save me. I barely slept that night and got ready for work in the morning, milling over my dreams and subsequent experiences, trying to see what I was missing. The only thing I could think to do came to me right before I left. I said aloud in my room, "If you need help, you got to tell me how," before walking down the hallway towards my front door. This leads up to tonight. I just woke up from a dream and felt like I need to clear my head, organize my thoughts and such, before I uncover what I think I will. My dream tonight started where my last one ended. In the basement, bones on the floor. The man cut open the bottom of a mattress and removed some of the padding. He then carefully laid the charred bones inside, pressing the padding back inside, and carefully stitched up the hole he cut. He then cleaned his floor and shampooed the mattress. I knew what I asked last morning, and could only assume the worst. My bed is flipped over ready to be checked. I'll finish this when I get back, I guess. I don't know what to think, how to feel. It was true. She was trying to tell me something. It just took me a while to understand her. I've been up all night. I had to call the police after finding burnt human remains in my house. They took my bed as evidence and questioned me to all hell. I told them the truth, how I got my bed off Craigslist. We met at a public parking lot. The paranormal experiences leading up to tonight, followed by me opening the bottom of my mattress and finding her. They checked my hands and house for any evidence I did it, but couldn't find any. I'm terrified by the thought that I've been sleeping on top of a corpse for months. I just had to tell someone, and this is the only place I could so soon after what happened. I'm going to post this and book a stay at a hotel for a few days as I want out of this house. Always investigate your used furniture. Who knows who the previous owners were or what they did with it?